There is a strange, humming silence that begins the moment a woman decides to stop. She doesn't announce it. There is no final, dramatic message sent. It's an internal shift, a quiet click in the machinery of her soul. She simply puts down the phone, not with anger, but with a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. She stops checking if he's online. She stops rereading old conversations, searching for clues in the digital ruins. She stops orchestrating casual encounters. She stops filling the space between them with her energy, her questions, her availability. She just stops. And in the beginning, the silence that answers her is exactly what she expected. It's empty. A confirmation of her deepest fear. That if she wasn't the one holding the thread, the entire connection would simply fall to the floor and lie there, inert. But then, something else happens. Something unexpected. The silence changes its texture. It's no longer just an absence. It begins to feel active, charged. It's a silence that seems to be listening. And this is the moment the real confusion begins. A text arrives, out of the blue, asking a meaningless question. How have you been? Or he posts something you know is meant for you to see. Or you hear through a friend that he's been asking about you. His presence, which was so passive and taken for granted when you were pouring your attention into him, suddenly becomes active when you withdraw. It's as if you walked out of a room, and only then did he turn his head to see where you went. And the question that rips through you is not just, why now? It's a far more dangerous question. Does this mean it worked? Does this mean he finally sees my value? Does he love me? The mind wants to believe this. It wants to believe that your withdrawal was a successful strategy, a power move in a game of love. But your body knows something else. Your body feels the old anxiety returning, the familiar tightening in your chest, the subtle, addictive hope that feels almost like a poison. Your body remembers this dance. This is not a game of chess. What you have stumbled into is not a strategy. You have unknowingly withdrawn a key from a lock in his unconscious mind. You have stopped feeding a very old, very deep pattern within him. And his reaction, that confusing mix of pursuit, silence, anger, or sudden warmth, is not about you, not in the way you hope. It is the sound of a hidden part of his psyche, a part he himself does not understand, beginning to stir. It's the activation of his unconscious attachment complex, and understanding this is the only thing that can set you free from the cycle of hope and despair. To understand what's happening in him, we must first look at what it meant for you to be available. For many women, being available isn't a conscious choice. It's a role learned so early, it feels like an identity. The available woman is the understanding one, the patient one, the one who sends the follow-up text because he's probably just busy, the one who adjusts her schedule to fit his, the one who provides a constant, low-level hum of warmth, validation, and emotional support, often without ever being asked. She becomes a psychological home base, a place he can return to for reassurance, for an ego boost, for a sense of being wanted, without ever having to invest in the structure of the home itself. She is the ever-present light in the window, a comforting glow that proves he is not alone, even when he chooses to wander. This role is a persona. In the language of Jung, a persona is the social mask we wear to navigate the world. For the woman who overgives, the persona is that of the nurturer, the cool girl, the savior, or the endlessly patient partner. This mask is rewarded by society. It's seen as kind, generous, and loving. But beneath the mask, a shadow grows. The shadow is everything we repress about ourselves, and for the woman in this role, the shadow contains her own unmet needs, her frustration, her resentment at being taken for granted, and most of all, her deep-seated fear that without this persona, she is worthless, that her value is tied directly to her utility. So she continues to give, she continues to be available, because the alternative, the silence, the potential abandonment, feels like a psychological death. She is not just giving him her time and energy, she is feeding her own persona to keep the shadow of her own unworthiness at bay. This is the dynamic you were in. You weren't just in a relationship with a man, you were in a relationship with a role. And that role was the perfect counterpart to his own unconscious wound. This is where the deeper truth becomes uncomfortable. His comfort with your availability was not necessarily a sign of his contentment in the relationship. It was a sign that you were perfectly fitting into a pre-existing slot in his psyche. You were, without knowing it, soothing a very old ghost. Carl Jung described a complex as a cluster of emotionally charged ideas, memories, and images in the personal unconscious. A complex behaves like a splinter in the psyche. The mind constantly works around it, and when it's touched, it produces an outsized emotional reaction. We all have complexes: a father complex, a mother complex, an inferiority complex. They are the architects of our emotional destinies until we make them conscious. Many men who are emotionally distant or avoidant, who seem to run hot and cold, are often unconsciously governed by an attachment complex, frequently referred to as a mother complex. This doesn't mean he literally sees you as his mother. It's far more subtle and symbolic. The complex is formed in early life. If his primary caregiver was inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes absent, or perhaps overly doting and smothering, never allowing him to develop his own emotional resilience, his psyche learns a specific pattern. It learns that the feminine is something that is either unreliable and must be controlled, or something that will engulf him if he gets too close. So, as an adult, his ego builds a powerful defense system. His persona becomes that of the independent, self-sufficient man. He doesn't need anyone. He values his freedom above all. He is allergic to feeling trapped or controlled. Intimacy feels threatening because, in his unconscious, it is associated with either abandonment or suffocation. Now, picture this man meeting you, the available woman. Your constant warmth, your willingness to initiate, your emotional labor. It's the perfect solution for his complex. You provide all the benefits of feminine connection, the validation, the sense of being desired, the emotional comfort, without triggering his core fear. Why? Because he is in control. You are the one chasing, you are the one giving. He can receive your warmth at a safe distance, taking it for granted because it's always there. He doesn't have to risk vulnerability. He doesn't have to face his fear of engulfment because you are doing all the work of closing the distance. You are, in a very real sense, managing his anxiety for him. Your availability becomes an external regulator for his internal chaos. He doesn't have to confront the empty, anxious feeling inside himself, because you are always there to fill it. You are the unspoken guarantee against his core wound. And then, you stop. You withdraw your energy. You take away the constant validation. The light in the window goes out. The chair you were keeping for him at the table is no longer there. On the surface, his ego barely notices it first. Fine, it says. I wanted freedom anyway. This is good. He might even feel a sense of relief, a confirmation of his own narrative that he is better off alone. But the unconscious is not the ego. The complex, that old, hungry ghost, suddenly wakes up. The external regulator has been removed. The supply of soothing energy has been cut off. For the first time, perhaps in years, he is left alone with the very feeling his entire adult life has been structured to avoid. The primal anxiety of the insecure attachment. The void you used to fill with your presence is now a gaping hole inside of him, and his psyche panics. This panic does not look like a rational adult saying, I miss her, and I fear I have lost her. The complex does not speak the language of the conscious mind. It speaks the language of symptoms, of irrational behavior. This is why his actions become so confusing. One version of his reaction is the sudden, almost frantic pursuit. The texts, the calls, the sudden desire to see you. This is not necessarily a conscious realization of your worth. It is a desperate, unconscious attempt to restore the previous equilibrium. He is not chasing you. He is chasing the feeling of comfort and control your availability gave him. He is trying to plug the dam before the anxiety floods his system. It's a reflex, like reaching for a handrail when you stumble. Another version of the reaction is anger or blame. He might lash out, call you manipulative or a game player. This is a projection. His ego, unable to tolerate the terrifying feeling of vulnerability and neediness, projects that badness onto you. You become the source of his discomfort. He makes you the villain in order to avoid facing the frightened child within himself. By getting angry at you, he creates a sense of power and control over a situation where he feels powerless. A third reaction is a louder, more deliberate silence, a punishing silence. He doubles down on his withdrawal, trying to win the game he thinks you're playing. This is his ego fighting for its life. It's a desperate attempt to prove to himself and to you that he does not need you. He is trying to starve out his own complex, to pretend the inner hunger doesn't exist. But this kind of silence is heavy. It is loud. It is the sound of a man at war with his own unconscious. And sometimes, the reaction is simply confusion. He may pull back even further, genuinely bewildered by the intensity of his own feelings. He feels an ache, a sense of loss, but his conscious mind has no category for it other than weakness. He may retreat to analyze, to intellectualize, to try and figure you out like a puzzle, because engaging with his own feelings is too terrifying. The crucial point to understand is this: all of these reactions are about him. They are the death throes of a comfortable dynamic that kept his deepest wounds safely buried. Your withdrawal didn't create his feelings, it simply stopped medicating them. Now let's turn the mirror back to you, because this dynamic is a lock and a key. His complex could not have operated without a corresponding pattern in you. Why were you so available? Why did you accept the role of the pursuer, the giver, the emotional caretaker? Often, the woman who is drawn to the emotionally unavailable man is herself grappling with an unconscious complex, the abandonment complex. This is the deep-seated belief that you must earn love, that you must prove your worth, that you must be useful in order to be kept. This complex might whisper that if you are not actively working for the relationship, you will be forgotten. It creates a hypervigilance, a constant scanning for signs of disapproval or distance. Silence from him doesn't feel like peace, it feels like a threat. His lack of initiation is not seen as a reflection of his character, but as a judgment on your worth. So you work, you text, you call, you plan, you understand, you forgive. Each act of giving is a desperate attempt to secure the connection, to prove you are worthy of not being abandoned. You were trying to be so valuable, so essential, that he could never leave. And here is the painful paradox. In trying to avoid abandonment, you continuously abandon yourself. Every time you silenced your own need for reciprocity, you abandoned yourself. Every time you accepted crumbs of attention as if they were a feast, you abandoned yourself. Every time you made his emotional comfort more important than your own peace, you abandoned yourself. The relationship became a stage where both of your complexes could play out their drama. His fear of engulfment was perfectly balanced by your fear of abandonment. He kept his distance, and you kept closing the gap. It was a perfectly stable, perfectly painful system. When you stopped being available, you didn't just trigger his complex, you triggered your own. The anxiety you feel in the silence is the cry of your abandonment complex. It's screaming, "You've made a terrible mistake. He's going to forget you. You've lost him forever." It floods your body with cortisol and adrenaline. It creates an obsessive need to check your phone, to analyze his behavior, to get a sign, any sign, that you are still on his mind. This is the withdrawal, not just from him, but from the role that made you feel safe, even as it was destroying your self-worth. The moment you see this, the moment you realize you are not just watching his drama, but are a lead actor in your own, is the moment you can begin to reclaim your power. His reaction is not a sign, it is data. It is not a secret message about his undying love for you. It is information about the nature of his inner world and the role you played in it. If he comes running back, desperate to restore the old dynamic, the question is not, does he love me? The question is he willing to face the complex that your absence has revealed? Or is he just trying to put the ghost back in the bottle? If he just wants you to go back to being the ever-available emotional regulator, then his return is a trap. It's an invitation to resume your role in his drama, to abandon yourself once more. If he reacts with anger and blame, the data is clear. He is not ready or willing to take responsibility for his own emotional state. He needs a villain to protect his fragile ego. To re-engage with him is to agree to wear the costume of the difficult woman, so he can continue to see himself as the victim. If he meets your silence with his own punishing silence, the data is also clear. His ego and his pride are more important to him than the connection itself. He is more committed to winning than to understanding. This is not about judging him. His complex is his wound to heal, just as yours is yours. The point is not to diagnose him or fix him. The point is to see the pattern clearly so that you can finally choose to step out of it. This is the heart of the journey of individuation, as Jung called it. It is the process of becoming who you truly are, separate from the roles, the personas, and the complexes that have been running your life. Your withdrawal of availability was the first step. It was an unconscious no that your soul made before your mind could catch up. Now, you must make that no conscious. This means learning to sit in the discomfort of your own abandonment complex, without immediately acting to soothe it. When the urge to check his social media arises, notice it. Feel the anxiety in your body. Breathe into it. Remind yourself, this feeling is the echo of an old pattern. It is not a command. You are not abandoning yourself by feeling it. You are abandoning yourself by obeying it at the cost of your dignity. It means redefining availability. You are no longer available to be a man's emotional dumping ground or his external source of validation. You are becoming available to yourself. What does that look like? It looks like filling the space his absence has left, not with another person, but with your own life. It's reconnecting with the friends you neglected while you were busy managing his moods. It's pouring energy into the work or the hobby that makes you feel alive, the one you said you didn't have time for. It's taking yourself on the dates you wished he would take you on. It means becoming your own source of warmth. You learn to give yourself the validation you were seeking from him. You start to notice your own strengths, to celebrate your own small victories. The inner voice that used to criticize you for not being enough for him slowly begins to be replaced by a voice of compassion and encouragement. This process activates your own inner authority, what Jungians might call the healthy animus. The animus is the masculine principle within a woman's psyche. When it's unconscious, it projects onto men, making them the sole arbiters of her worth and direction. She is always looking to a man to choose her, to give her life meaning. But as you become available to yourself, you integrate this animus. You become your own source of direction. You learn to make decisions based on your own values, not on what might win his approval. You develop a spine made of self-respect. You are no longer looking for a man to complete you. You are looking for a partner who can meet your wholeness. If this journey names a pain you have carried in silence, take a moment to acknowledge it. Acknowledge the exhaustion of having been so available for everyone but yourself. The most profound shift happens when the question in your heart changes. It is no longer, what is he thinking? It becomes, what am I feeling? What do I need? What is my truth? And what happens if, after weeks or months of this deep inner work, he does return? He will not meet the same woman. He will not find the anxious, waiting girl who was willing to contort herself to fit his needs. He will not find the open door to his emotional comfort station. He will find a woman who is grounded in her own center. A woman whose silence is not a tactic, but a peaceful state of being. A woman whose availability is a conscious choice. A gift she gives freely, but not carelessly. She is warm, but she has boundaries. She is compassionate, but she does not rescue. She will be able to look at him and see him clearly, not as a savior or a villain, but as a man grappling with his own wounds. And from this place of clarity, she can make a true choice. She can see if he has done any of his own work. Has he come back with awareness, with vulnerability, with a genuine desire to connect in a new way? Or is he just trying to get his old pacifier back? Her self-worth will no longer be on the table for negotiation. And this is the ultimate freedom. The outcome of the story with him ceases to be the point of the story. Whether he comes back or not, you have already come back. You have come back to yourself. The empty chair is no longer a symbol of his absence, but a throne of your own sovereignty. You have learned that the most powerful form of availability is being fully available to the life that is waiting for you, right here, right now, within your own skin. My availability is no longer a resource for others. It is the home I return to. But let's be clear, returning to this home within yourself is not a single, clean decision. It is a messy, somatic, moment-by-moment process of reclamation. Because the pattern of over-availability wasn't just a mental habit, it was etched into your very nervous system. It has a physical memory. Your body learned this dance. It learned that a lack of response from him should trigger a spike of cortisol, a jolt of anxiety that propelled you into action, to text again, to try harder, to close the gap. This was followed by the sweet, addictive relief of dopamine when he finally responded, even with a crumb. This cycle, anxiety, pursuit, relief, is a powerful physiological addiction. It's a form of intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes slot machines so compelling. You never knew when you'd get the payout, so you just kept pulling the lever. When you stop, you are not just withdrawing from him, you are going through a physiological withdrawal from this chemical cycle. This is why the silence can feel so physically agonizing. It's your body detoxing. You might feel phantom vibrations in your pocket, your brain tricking you into thinking he's texted. You might feel a lurch in your stomach when you see a car that looks like his. A song on the radio might trigger an immediate, full-body ache. A memory that lives not in your mind, but in your muscle tissue, in the cells of your lungs that suddenly forget how to take a full breath. This is the body memory layer. Your body keeps the score of every time you waited, every time you felt that drop of dread, every time you minimized your own feelings to accommodate his. It is a library of silent abandonments. And healing requires you to enter this library and listen to its stories, not just think your way out of them. This is where somatic work becomes crucial. It's about bringing your awareness back into your body, making it a safe place to be again. It can be as simple as placing a hand on your heart when the anxiety hits and breathing deeply, signaling to your nervous system, I am here, I am safe, I am not being abandoned, I am with myself. It can be through yoga, feeling the strength in your own limbs. It can be through dance, letting your body move the grief and frustration out of its tissues without needing to put words to it. You learn to listen to the body's subtler language. You start to notice how the thought of texting him first creates a subtle contraction in your solar plexus, a feeling of shrinking, and how the decision to put your phone down and go for a walk creates a sense of expansion, of quiet integrity. Your body becomes your most honest compass, always pointing you back towards self-respect. It knows the difference between the cheap thrill of his attention and the deep, nourishing peace of your own presence. As you inhabit your body more fully, you also begin to confront your shadow in a new way. The shadow, as we said, holds all the parts of you that you deemed unacceptable in order to maintain the available woman persona. It holds your neediness, your anger, your unreasonable desires, your raw hunger for reciprocated love. For so long, you were terrified of this shadow. You thought that if he saw this part of you, the part that wasn't endlessly patient and understanding, he would surely leave. So you hid it, from him and from yourself. But healing means turning to face this shadow. Integration is not about eliminating these darker aspects, but about owning them. You learn to say, yes, I am needy sometimes. I have needs. That is human. You learn to say, yes, I am angry. My anger is a sign that a boundary has been crossed. It is a guardian of my dignity. When you welcome these parts back, a profound shift occurs. You are no longer fragile. You are no longer terrified of being too much. You realize that the woman who is too much for a man who can only give crumbs is not the problem. The problem is the scarcity of the meal. This integration of your shadow is what allows you to develop true compassion, not just for yourself, but for him. You can look at his avoidance, his anger, his silence, and see it not as a verdict on your worth, but as a reflection of his own wrestling match with his own shadow. You see the frightened, insecure part of him that his ego works so hard to hide. You can have compassion for that wound, but with a crucial new boundary. You know it is not your wound to heal. Your work is with your own. And so, you continue your life. You fill it with your own color, your own music, your own meaning. And then, one day, long after the storm in your nervous system has calmed, the late practical test often arrives. He comes back, but he does not come back to an empty house waiting for its master. He knocks on the door of a home that is already full, vibrant, and alive. And how you answer the door, or if you answer at all, shows you just how much you have changed. Consider the breadcrumb test. It's a low-effort text, often late at night. Hey, was just thinking about you. The old you would have seen this as a seed of hope. You would have watered it with your attention, your questions, your eagerness. The new you sees it for what it is, a probe. He's checking if the power is still on at his old comfort station. Your response now is different. It might be a simple, polite, hope you're doing well. You don't ask a question in return. You don't open a loop. You are a polite, closed door. You are not hostile. but you are not available for a low-investment conversation that serves only to soothe his momentary boredom or anxiety. You pass the test by showing that your peace is more valuable than his crumbs. Then there is the crisis test. He may reappear with a story of struggle. A problem at work, a family issue, a feeling of being lost. This is a powerful lure, designed to activate your rescuer persona. The old you would have dived in head first, offering advice, endless emotional support, making his problem your project. The new you has integrated her shadow. She can feel compassion without feeling responsibility. You can say, "I'm really sorry you're going through that. It sounds incredibly difficult." You can be a compassionate witness, but you do not pick up his burden. You hold the boundary. You show him, and yourself, that you are no longer available to be a free emotional crisis manager. Finally, there is the most insidious of all, the future-faking test. He reappears with a sudden burst of warmth and begins talking about the future. "You know, I was thinking we should really take that trip we talked about." Or, "I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I realize what I had with you." These are beautiful words. They are the words you once longed to hear. But the new you, the woman grounded in her body and her truth, measures reality by actions, not words. You can receive the words with neutrality. That's a nice thought, you might say, but you do not get high on the potential. You remain in the present moment, observing. Does he follow up? Does he make a concrete plan? Does he show up, consistently, over time, with a new level of vulnerability and effort? Or do the words fade as soon as he feels secure again? You pass this test by trusting consistency over intensity. With each test you pass, something remarkable happens. His power over you dissolves. It's not that you hate him. In fact, you may feel more genuine, detached compassion for him than ever before. But the emotional charge is gone. His name on your phone screen no longer sends a jolt through your system. It's just a name. The story becomes just a story, not a defining tragedy. This is the freedom you were unknowingly seeking all along. The journey that began with the painful, confusing silence of his absence has led you to the sacred, peaceful silence of your own inner sanctuary. It was never about winning him back. It was never about proving your value to him. The entire dynamic was a complex, painful, and ultimately sacred invitation to come home to yourself. He was the catalyst, the mirror that forced you to see the places where you had abandoned your own soul. And for that, in the quiet clarity of your healed heart, you might even feel a strange sense of gratitude, because now you understand. The most profound and powerful form of availability is to be fully, uncompromisingly available to yourself, to your needs, your truth, your body, your dreams. You are no longer a woman waiting by the window for someone else to come and turn the lights on. You are the light. You are the home. And anyone who is invited in must be someone who knows how to honor a sacred space, because they have built one of their own.